Well, we've been talking BAFTAs, and I kind of want to find out a little bit more about what makes the film industry. Is it growing? We keep hearing that TV is sort of getting smaller and people are finding different ways to consume documentaries, series, all of that type of thing. But what is happening to the film industry? How has it changed over the years? I don't know if you've seen The Bait. It's one of the films that did very well last night at the BAFTAs, and it's a film about the Cornish fishermen, and it looked as if it had been filmed in the 40s. So how is the way we tell stories changing? Louis Bayman is a lecturer in film at the University of Southampton. Welcome along. Thank you for joining. Listen,
hi there, pleasure.
Hi. Listen, I'm kind of remembering the sort of Indiana Jones of the 80s and the 90s, Pretty Woman. But it kind of feels as though we've grown up since then, and the stories that we're telling are actually changing.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way of putting it. I mean, if we look at the main winners from the BAFTAs, in a certain way, what we've got is a return to simplicity. I mean, 1917 was the real big winner from last night. Both 1917 and Bait, really in very different ways, are telling quite simple stories. Bait about a fisherman, as you said. 1917 actually about someone who needs to get from one place to another. I mean, you can't really get much more simple than that. But it's in the way that those stories are told. It's the stylistic spectacle in 1917 or innovation as we get really in Bait, I think, that's the main draw on both of those films. Very different as they are between the two of them.
Well, let's take the one about the Cornish fishermen, because the interesting thing about that was it really did look as though it had been pulled together in a very, very clever way, stylistically, from the 40s. So what's the point? Why go backwards?
I'm not sure that I would quite put it in terms of going backwards. It's a film that's very steeped in film history. And of course, there's a lot to learn from you say 1940, even the 1920s, certain documentaries, and the kind of montage style, fast editing, as well, that we get. These were times of great artistic achievement of various different kinds in cinema. So I'd say it's more about learning from history rather than quite going backwards. The story's a very modern one. It's about gentrification, but done, as you say, with a style that's very aware of the artistic achievements of film's history.
I mean, it's absolutely stunning, and it is as though you are kind of like walking into an art gallery. So you're hearing a story that is fascinating and also familiar, but actually visually it is like being in a gallery. You have different things to notice rather than just sit there more passively like you would do in perhaps an Indiana Jones or something like that. So there is that difference, isn't there?
That's right, and it's down to a couple of factors. I mean, we need to think about what the BAFTAs is, what it's rewarding. It's rewarding stories that are told in an interesting way, in an innovative way, in a more creative or artistic way. As well as that, of course, it's the British Film Industry Awards. Now, they have a very wide definition of what constitutes British. Of course, Joker and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood were both awarded. But you're not going to find the more conventional blockbuster fare in there, although there's plenty of that still around at the moment. So they are going to reward innovation and difference.
You are a lecturer. When you have your students in front of you, what is the sort of thing that you're asking them to think about? So for the future, are the stories more and more going to be like the story of where we are currently? What is that line that we're going to be looking at? What we're going to be seeing in the future?
I mean, personally, what I like doing as a film lecturer is opening people's eyes to the diversity of film, to the variety. I mean, I certainly don't think we should do without entertainment. I don't think that we should do without the Indiana Joneses and so on. But to understand that that's not all that film is. There's all sorts of possibilities. Film can be about a social commentary like Bait or Parasite, really brilliant film, which got the Best Foreign Language nomination. It can be more contemplative, it can be exciting and spectacular in the way that 1917 is. So it's about understanding the validity and the beauty, I think, of the variety of forms of cinema.
How hard is it to actually take an idea, just like the Cornish one, and actually manage to put it together and get it in front of an audience?
It's very difficult. And I did actually speak to the producer of Bait, who said that filmmaker, Mark Jenkins, had been thinking of, he'd been trying to get this film done for the last 30 years. Very much a labour of love. It is a difficult industry. One of the other big stories of last night was the story about a lack of diversity. There's a lot of accusations of nepotism within the film industry as well. So just at a practical level, to get your film made, it's very difficult.
So it is a lot about who you know still.
Yes, unfortunately it is. And aside from the fact that making a great film, of course, it's easy to watch a film. It's extremely difficult to make a film. It demands a great deal of dedication, a lot of, a whole sort of fleet of different kinds of highly trained professionals working on it. I wouldn't want to discourage anyone from getting involved, from saying all that, of course. I mean, the point is Mark Jenkins did get to make his film, but it does have to be something that you're really in love with.
Brilliant stuff. All right, well, you don't worry, you haven't put us off at all. You've sown a few seeds. That is Louis Bayman there, a lecturer in film